I wasn't expecting to do a video until the next Gotham Knights review, which I am working on, by the way. However, Marvel was kind enough to drop just an absolutely juicy little nugget 2 days ago, and I finally got around to watching the whole thing myself. The Marvels. This was a movie that was supposed to be released on July 28th, 2022. It was then moved to November 11th, 2022. And then it was moved to February 17th, 2023. And moved again on July 28th, 2023. And finally, it has come to its current resting place with a release date of November 10th, 2023. Now, why the jumping around of release dates? Well, originally, this was pushed back because they needed to do, quote-unquote, some reshoots. However, as time went on, rumors started coming out that those reshoots were going to be rather significant. And the more they tested the movie, the more they wanted to reshoot it, which means it got dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. Now, speculation is that behind the scenes, there had to have been discussions to simply drop this on Disney Plus because the reaction was tepid at best, especially since it was originally supposed to be a Captain Marvel 2, and eventually Disney Marvel changed the name to The Marvels and included Monica Rambeau and Ms. Marvel from the Disney Plus show. Personally, I think those two are unfortunately going to be the human shields for the imminently unlikable Brie Larson. She has been the worst casting choice in the history of the MCU. Right out of the gate, Marvel fans pretty much did not like Brie Larson either as herself or as Captain Marvel, especially since the Captain Marvel movie was so poorly received. Yes, it made $1 billion, but it only made $1 billion because the marketing department at Marvel was brilliant and told everybody that to understand Endgame after Infinity War, you had to go and see Captain Marvel. And so we get The Marvels coming out at the end of the year. And the funny thing is, it's probably going to bomb and bomb hard. And the reason that is because the date it was scheduled for come this fall is around the exact same time that the second half of Dune is coming out. And the first Dune was so good that, assuming they got this at least okay, the sequel is going to suck all of the oxygen out of the box office come November. So, they dropped a teaser trailer 2 days ago, and I think I'm going to go through this rather meticulously, which means this video is already going to be way longer than the 2-minute trailer. We begin with a ginormous space station orbiting Earth. Question: where the hell did that come from? Granted, alien tech would increase the ability of the human race to build in space. That would just be an exponential deal changer. However, where was it during Phase 4? Like when the Eternals were messing about and helping to bring forth and then stop a huge giant hand in the middle of the ocean that nobody in the Marvel Universe seems to want to talk about now that it's happened. But after that, we get Monica Rambeau going out on a spacewalk with Nick Fury looking on, asking what exactly she's doing. And her response is she's going to get some readings for him of this wall of light in the middle of space. Now, anybody who has watched any Star Trek whatsoever knows you do not take readings with your hand, which apparently is what Monica Rambeau decided to do because she touches the wall of light and immediately gets blown backwards. Now, before I go into that, before she gets to the wall of light, her comms start going out. What does she do? Does she go back to the space station, get them fixed, figure out why the comms are going out? No. Monica Rambeau goes forward towards the wall of light, touches the wall of light like a bloody idiot, and Miss Marvel from the Disney Plus TV show gets flung back in her place in the spacesuit, fully clothed in the spacesuit that Monica Rambeau was in, and she goes flying away from the wall of light. Now, in a vacuum, you do not slow down unless you have equal and opposite thrust. However, Miss Marvel goes flying towards the space station and magically slows down to the point where by the time she gets to the space station, she just puts out a little hand and stops her forward momentum. She would have gone splat against that window because she would have been at the same velocity that she got thrust away from the wall of light. Obviously, there were zero scientific advisors on this movie. Anyway, there Miss Marvel is, hanging upside down in space, getting all excited because she sees Nick Fury. Question: how the hell does she know who Nick Fury is? Nick Fury's supposed to be a secret agent. Emphasis on secret. How does a high schooler from New Jersey know him? Did they meet on the Miss Marvel Disney Plus series? If so, this is showing why the current Disney Marvel model sucks. And I'll get on into that after the rest of the trailer. Then we have Monica Rambeau, assumingly replacing Miss Marvel, since Miss Marvel is where Monica Rambeau is. However, I seriously doubt Miss Marvel was on a world somewhere. And Rambeau stands up and she goes and she fights these guys. Now, the planet she lands on looks rather rocky, rather barren, and rather without atmosphere. So how exactly is she breathing? I know in the comic books she can travel through the vacuum of space, but to do that she needs to be in her energy form, which is not what is going on here. But never mind. Don't question it. Let's move on. Then they flash to Brie Larson for the first time in the trailer, and I believe this is something like 30 seconds in. And I have seen the trailers for the Miss Marvel show. Did they recycle a scene from the Miss Marvel show? Because it looks suspiciously like what I have been told is the end credit scene for the Miss Marvel finale. And that is how we first see Captain Marvel in this trailer. Also, by this point, they have been thoroughly bastardizing some really good music. And I don't know if the Beastie Boys are hard up for money these days, but it's a travesty that their music is being used for this nonsense. So anyway, we eventually have Nick Fury and Monica Rambeau show up at Kamala Khan's parents' house. And this is about where we figure out that this trailer is no longer aimed at the core Marvel audience. And I have been pretty much aware that Disney has decided to allow both Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy to veer away from their hardcore audiences and start shooting for a new audience for those franchises. And in this case, this trailer seems aimed at 12-year-old girls. Because Kamala Khan sees Nick Fury at the door and starts having a happy fit. And then we get the explanation that Kamala Khan, Monica Rambeau, and Brie Larson have become entwined, I guess via their powers. I'm sure the explanation in the movie is going to be as dumb as that sounds. Now, if this is the case, wouldn't the first sentence out of your mouth to a teenager be, "Don't use your powers until we figure this shit out"? But that apparently was not the first sentence out of Nick Fury or Monica Rambeau's mouth. Because the first thing Kamala Khan does when she gets told that their powers are combined is, hey, I can demonstrate my power, want to see? And she does, and suddenly Brie Larson shows up and destroys the Khan's dining room table. Gets up and throws a Danica Patrick-like hissy fit. So if Brie Larson is there, where'd Kamala Khan go? Well, she gets flashed to the set of the next Tron movie. Well, at least that's what it looks like. And next to her is you-know-who, Goose. And Goose was probably the best character in the Captain Marvel movie. Not that I'm saying that that's a good thing. It was just probably the best thing that came out of that movie, and that is a really low bar to achieve. But as she's laying there next to Goose, some alien, faceless, uniformed guys come along, and of course the Flarkin's tentacles shoot out of its mouth, and he eats the bad guys. And she has kind of a hissy fit over that. The trailer then goes to a aerial shot of what I'm assuming is some kind of alien civilization. You don't know because it is so generically alien civilization that it might as well be New Asgard. Or, hell, it could have been out of the Rings of Power show. It was really that bad. Then we get to see the bad guy, or I should say the bad girl, because they have gender swapped Dar-Benn, who is carrying a hammer like Ronan the Accuser. Only in the comics, Dar-Benn was a general. So I don't know if he would have been, carrying around a hammer like Ronan the Accuser would. And she's standing next to a group, or among a group of basically faceless, uniformed bad guys who look like they are cosplaying a 70s sci-fi movie. The costumes are really that bad, and none of them are in any way imposing. So I'm not sure if we're supposed to be afraid of these guys or not, but the effect is not one to instill terror. And then we get a bunch of jump cuts, and we see another bad guy, I'm assuming, and we also see an army of cats running down some stairs, and I'm assuming they're all Flarkins. And dear Lord, save us from the stupidity of Disney, because I am sure that is just going to be straight up retarded. But they pretty much end the trailer shortly after that, and there is just so much going on in this trailer, and so many issues it raises. Among them is the trailer, plus 2 out of the last 4 movies that Disney Marvel has released, shows that Disney is now using their movies to pimp their D+ shows, rather than the more intelligent models of having their D+ shows be addendums to the movies. Those of you who watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of understand what I'm talking about here. It acknowledged and fleshed out events tangential to the movies, but it was not necessary to have seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to watch the next Phase 1 through 3 movie. With Phase 4 and Disney Plus, that has changed. If you did not see WandaVision, much of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness did not make sense, because Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was not a Doctor Strange sequel. It wasn't even a sequel to Spider-Man No Way Home. It was a sequel to WandaVision. And much of what went on in that movie was directly involved with the events of WandaVision, up to and including the motivation behind everything that the Scarlet Witch did in that movie. Similarly, If you did not see Loki, a lot of Ant-Man Commie-mania did not make sense because they leaned on a lot of what went on in Loki. Now, the Marvels is similar because if you missed WandaVision, which was the introduction of Monica Rambeau as an adult, and you missed Miss Marvel, you will miss things in this upcoming movie because they are not making everything self-contained in the movie. You have to do homework in order to go see this movie and understand everything that's going on. And I think Disney Marvel is giving up on the male half of the audience because this trailer straight up looks aimed at the 10 to 14-year-old female demographic. It looks like a commercial for one of their Disney Channel shows from the 1990s or early 2000s. Think Lizzie McGuire or Hannah Montana sort of show, only with superpowers and space aliens. Marvel and Star Wars as well is losing the male half of their audience, which is weird because the male half of the audience is exactly why Disney went out and bought Marvel and Star Wars in the first place. Last thing I want to talk about is the whole Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan thing, because I think the only reason those two characters were included in this movie is to basically be the human shields for Brie Larson. And she needs them, because Brie Larson is the most wooden and uncharismatic character in the entire MCU. She cannot carry a movie in the MCU on her own. Despite the fact that they had Chris Hemsworth's Thor give her all kinds of validation and told everybody that this is a good character, she is not. She is stiff, she is wooden, she is uncharismatic, and she is the very definition of a Mary Sue. The fact that they even went forward with any kind of sequel to Captain Marvel basically shows that the people in the higher up executive suites of Disney and Marvel do not watch their own products. Because if they did, they would have seen themselves that the first Captain Marvel movie was a mess. And this is only going to be more of the same. And when it bombs at the box office, they will have the actresses playing Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau out front and center claiming that the fans are racist in an effort to both shield Brie Larson and excuse the terrible performance of the movie at the box office. So, YouTubers all over the world have been waiting for this movie to come out for almost a year now. And it will be over a year when it finally hits theaters. And oh lordy. But contrary to what Marvel and Disney and everyone involved will say, it's not because we're racist that we've been anticipating it. It's because this had terrible written all over it from the minute it was announced. So strap in for when that drops on the box office. Speaking of box office, the box office estimates for this movie have been all over the place. I have heard as high as maybe 700 million at the box office to as low as 300 or 400. And Disney is claiming the production budget on this thing is 130 million. But they've been reshooting this bloody movie for months now, and I have a serious case of the doubts where it comes to this budget that they announced for the Marvels. I am thinking it is probably way higher than they are prepared to acknowledge. And they're undercutting what the real budget is because they know that this movie is not testing well. They know Captain Marvel is not their biggest character with the audience, and they have seen their last few movies get to the box office, have really good first weeks, and then drop off a bloody cliff. At the moment, each new Marvel release seems to be trying to vie for the biggest second week drop off in history. And they have set that record newly a couple of times in the last few movies. So, November 10th, 2023, we get to see what it is that Brie Larson and Kevin Feige and Bob Iger are putting out there, and it's not going to be good. This is going to be a train wreck. That's all I have for this video. The next one will be the Gotham Knights Rundown review. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, comment down below. And until then, tschüss.